Hey guys, in this video we're going to create a very simple service in Angular. Now, as I said, you can use Angular CLI to generate a service, but I want to just manually create it just so you definitely understand the file structure and typing out the class and all that. But later on we'll get into generation, which is very simple. So let's create a folder in our app folder called services. And then we're going to create a new file here, and I'm just going to call this data.service.ts. Okay, and then what we want to do here is we want to first import the injectable package. Okay, actually that should be a capital I. So we're going to import injectable, and that's going to be from Angular core. Okay, and then we need to use the injectable decorator, so we're going to do the @ symbol and then injectable and then some parentheses. Okay, and then we can create our class. So let's say export class, and we're going to call it data service. Okay, and then all we're going to do here is we're going to have a user's property. Remember, this is a class just like a component class, so we can set properties here. This will be an array of strings. Okay, and then it can also have a constructor. And all we'll do here is we'll say this.users, and then we'll set some users in this array. Okay, so let's say Mark, we'll say Sharon, Beth, and John. All right, so we have some users now. And then I'm going to create a function called getUsers, and this is going to be the function we want to call from outside from the component. So this is just going to return this.users. Okay, this is a very simple service. The idea is just to show you how it works. So now that we created that, we can't use it in our component just yet. We need to add it to app.module. So we're going to just import it here. So we'll say import. Okay, we called it data service, and that's going to be from, and then we want to go / into services, and then data.service. Okay, and then we need to add it as a provider. Okay, components you add to the declarations, services you add to the providers. So we'll just say data service. Okay, so now we'll save that, and then let's go to our sandbox component. And we want to bring in our service here as well. So we're going to import data service, and that's going to be from. We're going to go outside of the sandbox folder, outside of the components folder, into services, and then into data.service. Now, when you use a service, you have to inject it as a dependency. And you inject dependencies inside of the constructor, or I should say inside of the constructor parameters. Okay, so it's going to go inside here. So we're going to make this public. You can use public or private. And then we're going to call this, we're going to say data service, okay, with a lowercase d, and then colon, and then we want to set it to whatever we brought it in as, whatever the service class name is, which is data service with a capital D. All right, so now we can use this data service and then anything we have in here. Okay, so we want this get users right here. So what we'll do is let's go into our constructor, and let's just do console.log, and we're going to say this.dataService.getUsers. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that. And now down here you'll see that it's actually getting those users from the service. So we could bring this into any component, inject it as a dependency, and then use it. Okay, imagine if we had a bunch of components that needed these users and we didn't have a service, we'd have to actually create them inside every single component. And obviously this is very simple, but this can get very complicated very fast. All right, now a common thing we would do is inside a component we would have a property, let's say users, and that would be, let's say, a string, or an array of strings, and then we would then set this dot users to the result of that service function. Okay, and then we could use that in our template up here. If we wanted to, we could do let's say ul list group li. So this would be, let's see, list group. I can't type and talk, so list group item, and then we could do an ng4, and we could do let user of users, and then in here just put in our double curly brace and user. Save that. And now we're getting the users from the service, bringing them in, adding them to the users property, and looping through them with ng4. All right, so in the next video, we're going to take a look at observables. We're still going to work in our service, but we're going to create a function that's going to return an observable, which is kind of like an open data stream. We can just keep sending data from the service through an observable. All right, so we're going to get into that next.